Hey everybody, welcome back to Board and Savior. Today, we are going to be playing a little game called Balatro, but we're not just going to be doing that. We are also going to be talking a little bit about a little thing that I like to call addiction, and specifically addiction in gaming. This is not quite as serious as talking about some other forms of addiction, but it's really something that was just kind of interesting to me. Everyone who I saw recommend this game used the term addicted, like I'm addicted to playing this game, and that is something that we have heard a lot in gaming, becoming addicted to games, not being able to put games down, that kind of thing. This isn't going to be like a super serious discussion, but it just got me kind of curious about where that comes from and how games become addicting, like in their structure, like what about them is addicting. And so I am not going to be breaking any new ground. I am not a psychologist or a neuroscientist or anything like that. I am just a guy who watched a bunch of YouTube videos that are linked below, and I'm going to talk about addiction in gaming, and specifically addiction in board gaming. This is a video game. Clearly, you're looking at my computer screen. This is a video game, but it's a card-based video game, and this does feel like it shares a lot of deck building kind of vibes with a lot of board games that we are used to and you might expect me to talk about on a channel about board games. So the reason that I've decided that this is okay for a board game channel is that I'll talk about it in terms of board games and how video games are different from board games in their addiction and the ways that they're similar, and what techniques video games use that board games can't, and what things that board games like adapt to their medium in order to make them as addicting as possible. Also, while this is happening, I will be talking about me playing Balatro, because I played a game of Balatro and it was a good time. So I played it previously and recorded it, and so I'm going to kind of like commentate over it. I tried to talk over the game while I was playing it, and I just couldn't do anything but like focus on strategy. So that wasn't going well. So I decided to record separately and then talk over it. But let's get started, and we'll begin before we talk about addiction and everything. If you're only interested in that, skip ahead to the next time code. But if you want to learn how to play Balatro, if you're unfamiliar with it, then watch this next bit right here. Okay, so here we are in Balatro selecting our deck. A bunch of different decks all do different cool, unique things. That makes it more replayable and more super duper fun and awesome and great. The key things to understand about this game are what you are meant to do in the game. Okay? What are you supposed to do? You are supposed to play hands in order to score a certain amount of points. The amount of points increases with each passing round, getting harder and harder, more and more difficult. Right here, we're supposed to score at least 450. You can see that in the top left corner. We scored 700. We freaking nailed it. That means we get to move on to the next level. How do you score points? Gosh, what a good question. It feels like you've done this before. You score points by playing hands. This is poker, but made into a roguelite game. What is a roguelite game? I don't know if you've played Hades or what's it like? Faster Than Light is a roguelite. There's a whole bunch of roguelite games. They're all very cool. Roguelite games are games where you have a kind of a central goal that stays the same every run of the game, every time that you play, but every time that you play, there are also going to be a whole bunch of random variables. We'll talk about that more in just a second, because we need to talk about this for just a moment here. This is the hands that you can play, which are just like they are in poker. High cards are the weakest thing, straight flushes are the strongest thing. And if you play out one of these hands, you will gain the benefits associated. This blue number on the left is the chips, this red number on the right is the multiplier. As you go up, you get more points. Playing a straight flush, you have a base value of 800. Pretty good. Pair, base value of 20. Not as good. 800 to 820, actually very far apart numbers-wise. The other thing that is interesting and unique about Balatro is that whatever cards that you play are added to the chip value. So if, say, you play a pair of 5s, your base chip value for a pair is 10, and then you add 5 for one of the 5s and 5 for the other 5, so that you are earning 20 times 2, so that's 40. So as you go up here for like a flush, you're playing 5 cards, so this chip value is probably going to get a little bit higher than if you just play a single card. There are a whole bunch of different strategies. You can win by playing just a single high card the entire time. Well, once you have some crazy multipliers going on. I did play a run where by the end, I would exclusively play a single ace, and it would win me the whole thing. It was awesome. But there are other strategies where you might focus on getting a bunch of straight flushes because you don't need as high value cards in order to get a crazy amount of points from a straight flush, because the straight flush is just, by its very nature, a more point-generating hand, chip-generating hand. My apologies. That's what you're trying to score. You're trying to score at least 600 chips right here. So that is what you do every old time in Balatro. You'll see these two numbers, hands and discards, underneath that flush, 61 times 6. Hands are the amount of times that you can play out a hand and have it scored and add up into your round score. Discards are the amount of times that you can select up to 5 cards in your hand, get rid of them, and get a slew of new cards to improve your the hand that you will play. Then that number 0 down there, $0, that tells you that I am poor right now. But after every round, you get money that you can then spend in the shop to buy things that will make you better at playing Balatro. Those other two numbers down there, ante and round. Ante refers to the entirety of a set of 3 rounds that you play in order to progress. Every 3 rounds is 1 ante, although you'll see right here I've played 2 rounds and I just ticked over to 3 and I'm already on ante 2. How does that work? You can skip rounds or blinds in order to gain a benefit. That makes things more difficult for you because skipping around means that you're missing out on potential money that you could earn in that round, and the next round it's more difficult because the chip value that you need to hit is higher, but sometimes those benefits are awful worth skipping a round or 2. Once you've beaten all 8 antes, then you win the game, and you can optionally play on in endless mode, which gets very out of control very fast, and you lose very quickly, in my experience, in endless mode. That is, I mean, that's the basics of the game. What makes it so freaking fun is not that you just play, I played a straight again. That's not very exciting. What makes it exciting is these things, these jokers. Jokers modify all sorts of different properties in Balatro. They can make it so that whenever you play a straight, you inherently have more chips associated with that straight. Whenever you play 3 of a kind, your multiplier is multiplied again by 3. All sorts of absolutely bonkers effects that you can stack and chain. Right now you can see that I have a maximum of 5. It says 2 out of 5 underneath the Joker little window. So that means I can have 5 jokers, but there are ways to increase that amount. There are also negative jokers that don't count against your joker slots. All sorts of wild and wacky things that you may uncover while playing Balatro. This right here, I remember this moment, was me learning that this Joker sucks because I thought it said +3 multiplier whenever you open a booster pack, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. You get +3 multiplier every time you skip a booster pack, which means that you open it and then you take nothing from within. What are booster packs, you're wondering, as someone who's not familiar with Balatro fare? Booster packs, there are 4 kinds of booster packs: Celestial, Arcana, playing card, what are they? Regular, normal booster pack? I don't remember what they're called. And there's 5. Buffoon packs, which have jokers in them, and spectral packs. Arcana packs are these gold cards that you're seeing right now. This strength card, they all modify the cards in your deck. So strength, if you selected this 4 and this 5, it would increase those 4 and 5 to a 5 and a 6. See, increases rank of up to 2 selected cards by 1. You just saw it on screen. They do all sorts of other things too, like they might change some hands in your card from a suit to another kind of suit. They might add bonus values to certain cards, all kinds of crazy stuff. Celestial packs increase the base value of the hands that you play. So to start with, we saw that the pair was 10 chips times 2 multiplier. Celestial Pack may increase that to 15 times 3, and then to 20 times 4. Celestial Packs upgrade those hands of cards. Wait, am I about to open one? No, I'm not. I thought I could show it off. Standard Pack is the one with the playing cards in it. So let's see what we get in here. Okay, so that 5 looks crazy. That means that the 5 it adds 4 to the multiplier. And you saw that I just skipped it because I have this joker that gives you more multiplier if you skip it. I didn't realize that that's how it worked because I didn't read it. You should read it. Is there anything else that's like essential to tell you? Oh, spectral packs. Spectral packs are really, really weird cards that do nutso things. Like they might destroy all of the cards in your hand or something, and it gives you like $30. That's not, I think it's like destroy 5 cards and you get $20, or destroy all of your jokers except for one, but the one joker that you didn't destroy gets like a cool multiplier put onto it. Wild stuff in the spectral packs. They can really change things around. These spare trousers, oh, you're about to see. These spare trousers are how I won my game. This joker has the benefit of you increase the multiplier that it gives you every time you play a hand with at least 2 pair. So either a 2 pair or a full house has 2 pair in it, and that will increase the multiplier that pair of pants gives you. Pair of pants joker. It's a silly game. It's a silly fun time. It's so good. Oh my gosh. Okay. Is there anything else you need to know? I don't think so. I think we're probably good. So let's talk about addiction. Let's just dive right in. Actually, before we dive right in, let's dive into this subtopic, which is, are games that have addictive properties bad? Am I saying that you shouldn't play Balatro as I play Balatro? Absolutely not. You should definitely play things that you find fun. I think that the important thing comes in where you are recognizing what is going on. You are not judging, or what am I trying to say? You're not playing things blindly and being addicted to it without understanding what's going on inside of you. Because I think the first key step to having it not affect you in a negative way is understanding what's going on, which is honestly what I wanted to do, because I said earlier that people playing Balatro talked about being addicted. That was immediately what I felt. I played like one game of Balatro and I was like, oh, I'm going to be playing a lot of games of this. And that got me curious, wondering like, what is that? Why is it that way? And I think a lot of people know a lot of terms like dopamine and things like that. And I knew that stuff too, but I wanted to look a little bit more deeply into it because I am in therapy right now. And by the way, if I recommend Balatro to everybody, I also recommend therapy to everybody. That's a good place to go. Therapy, yeah, get yourself some. Why? Because, I don't know, I feel better now. I feel like a better, happier person doing therapy. So if you want to, do that. But in therapy, myself and my therapist talk a lot about, it's not so much about judging what you are doing that you don't like, but it's about understanding what you're doing that you don't like and figuring out where that's coming from. Okay, so no. Games that have addictive properties are not inherently bad. Balatro is addicting. Civilization 6 is one where I see it as very addicting, but it is not a bad thing that is the case. It's completely fine as long as we are aware of it. And I'm couching all of these things because I'm like, commenters are going to be mean and they're going to say things where it's like, oh, well, this isn't true for me. And good, it might not be true for you. I I'm not saying I hope it's not true for you, but I hope that if you're different, you know that and you recognize that, because that is important in figuring out how you can best combat the things that are messing with you. Addiction is something that does mess with me. I've talked a lot in my videos about addictions to buying things, and boy, oh boy, we're going to talk about that later. But different things affect different people. Addictions to substances affect some people. Some people are not affected by addiction, but they have problems with depression. Like, there's a myriad of things that can be wrong in our brains, and that's totally fine. It's not a happy thing that things can be wrong in our brains, but it's okay that it's possible. You know, we have to be willing to say, yeah, that is something that's going on inside of me. How do I get out of this pickle? So one pickle that I found myself in is addiction, and one way that I found is good to work on it is to learn about it. Okay, that's where we are. That's where I'm at, and yeah, I'm currently in this Balatro game. Before we dive into the heavy addiction stuff, I'm going for a full house run here, baby. So 2 pairs and full houses is all I'm after. I'm also trying to destroy all the lowest cards in my deck, because this joker here, the raised fist, it gives you, it adds to your multiplier equal to the lowest card in your hand. It doubles whatever the lowest value is in your hand. So in that case, it only added 6 because the lowest value is 3. So I'm trying to get rid of all the 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s. So I just got the good stuff. That'll also make it more likely that I'll draw the same cards. If I don't have 2, 3, 4, or 5, it's more likely that I'll draw 2 7s, right? You get it. It's so silly. Oh my gosh, this game is so freaking fun. This run is so different than anything else I've ever done. Let's talk about that in terms of addiction. Boom. Transition. So, replayability. It's good. It's a good thing, and it makes things much easier to do them over and over and over and over again, and specifically varied replayability. And that's, I think, kind of inherently in replayability what makes something replayable. But yeah, it helps a lot. Like I mentioned at the very start of Balatro stuff, there are a bunch of different decks. I don't know, like 10 or 12 different decks that all do different things. I'm playing the red deck, which gives you an extra discard. There's the blue deck, which gives you an extra hand to work with. And there's also crazy ones that's like, start with this unique spectral card that gives your Joker this ability, and it makes spectral cards more likely to show up in your thing. So you can get super specific, or you can get more general and be like, yeah, I'd like to be able to discard a little bit more. That sounds like that would probably be somewhat helpful. All kinds of crazy stuff. And that level of customizability before you even start playing is one of the things that makes this so appealing to play over and over and over again. Because you're like, you know what, today, I'd like to sample the deck that gives me a little bit of extra money to begin with. Today, I'd like to sample the deck that gives me an extra hand to work with. That helps a lot. The other thing that helps in this game specifically is that there are over 100 different Jokers that all do different things. So no run is ever going to look the same. Never, ever. And all the tarot cards are always randomized, and it's all randomization in addiction is a huge element of the thing that makes something addictive. You not being exactly sure what's gonna come makes it much more exciting and interesting to play the thing over and over and over again, because if you fail miserably this time, you're like, well, maybe I won't fail miserably next time, because I might get a crazy lucky start, and then it'll go nuts from there. That kind of uncertainty and randomness is something that is very, very, very appealing to these masses of gooey, yummy stuff. I don't know if they taste good inside of our heads. I'm talking about brains. So let's talk about dopamine in terms of gaming. Dopamine, something that we're all probably somewhat familiar with. It's that thing, that chemical that is released in our brain when good things happen. So in this game, when you load up a hand of cards and you instantly have the hand that you need, a little bit of dopamine. You got a little bit of happy juice flowing into your brain. when you load up the game and the first Joker that you see is one where you're like, I just won the game with this last time. I found it like on the last hand last time. I need to get this and start with it. That's dopamine, baby. And also seeing yourself succeed over and over and over again. There's little bits of dopamine coming out every single time. The key to dopamine working as effectively as possible is that it is not always static. It's not always the same thing. Heavy topic here, drug use. Drugs are much harder to enjoy if you use them at the same amount every single time over and over and over and over and over again, because whatever dopamine is being released in your brain, whatever happy chemicals are being released in your brain, they get less and less every time you take it in the same amount. So you need to take more and more and more. And that is one of the many things that makes some drugs so freaking dangerous, is that you need to take more in order to feel better. This is basic freaking like 3rd, 4th grade drug stuff. You're not learning anything new here. Let's move right along. The way that games make this more effective is that they vary the dopamine that you get, either intentionally or unintentionally, just based on the structure of the thing. Balatro, prime example, you are going to have some runs that are absolute garbage. You maybe do one cool thing in the time, and then you like lose. You lose on turn 4, maybe. You're going to have some runs where you barely scrape by with a win, and you're like, well, at least I won. And then other times you are going to have runs where you destroy the game, where on like the 5th ante, you're getting 1,000,000 points, which is much more than you need on the 8th ante. And all of those different levels, and you never being sure of which one you're going to get when, that's what makes you want to keep coming back over and over and over again. You lose, you go, well, but maybe the next time I'm going to have an insane run. And then you win, but barely on that run. And you're like, well, I lost, and then I had a good run. The next one, I mean, it could be great. Like, our brains do this thing where we kind of assign meaning where none exists. Like, it is completely random. It is a randomly seeded run. You do not know if you're going to have a good one after you have a bad one. But if you start to develop these little patterns in your head, I had 2 bad and then I had a good. I mean, just based on the stats, just based on like my brain, should be a great run next, right? We do this thing naturally, and games know that this is what happens. It can also, every once in a while, work to the detriment of a game, and you can start maybe with a great run, and then you have a crappy run, and you're like, well, I don't want to play anymore. I already had a great run, but I don't know. Sometimes it goes the other way back around again. Great run, bad run. You're like, well, I got to end on a great one, right? I have to leave on a high. It's a tricky thing, because all of those sensations are so natural, and it's the naturalness of those sensations that makes games that are addicting so effective and makes you want to mess with them over and over and over again. Let's stop talking about video games, excuse me, for a moment, and start talking about board games, because I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, wait a second, how does this apply to board games? And fair question. I actually spent a lot of time trying to figure out how it applies to board games, because in everything where money is involved, where capital is involved, people are going to want to maximize that capital, and board gaming is no different. I'm not here to judge that as a practice in this video. There are many instances where you are going to be rewarded by the market for your thing being something that is addicting. The freaking drug economy is massive because people get addicted to it, because people need to keep coming back and buying more. Board games are interesting because the only ways that companies benefit from addiction are in sales of expansions. If you become like addicted to the base game of something, that makes it more likely that you'll want to buy expansions to vary your experience more. You can also gain a monetary benefit as a company because there's more word of mouth. If you're more addicted to something, you're more likely to talk about it to other people. So expansions, word of mouth, and then something that we're seeing a good amount of lately is reprints, second editions, reworkings, re-implementations, that sort of thing, where I have Twilight Imperium 3rd edition. 4th edition just came out. I love 3rd edition. I play it all the time. Why would I not upgrade to 4th edition? It's supposedly the better version. It's more streamlined. It's simpler. There's the argument every once in a while that, hold on, so sorry. This freaking Joker, I do not understand how this is a common. ×3 mult, 1 in 1,000 chance that it's destroyed? That's very rarely going to be destroyed. That's a good one. Why is that common? I love that freaking Cavendish. Anyway, there's the argument that you may not want to upgrade from 3rd edition to 4th edition because I know 3rd edition and I don't want to relearn any rules, but I think Twilight Imperium is a pretty good example of a game that did pretty dang well switching from 3rd to 4th edition. There are people who I am sure still swear by 3rd edition, and it's still their preferred method of play. But I think quite a few more people who say, "Yeah, I made the right call upgrading to 4th." So, as far as I see it, those are the ways that board game publishers benefit from getting you addicted to board games. And if you can think of more, let me know in the comments down below, because I'm interested to see what other avenues I'm not perceiving as something that they're benefiting from. Which, again, this is not necessarily an inherent judgment of the practice of saying, like, I've made my game addicting so that people want to buy expansions. We live in a capitalist society. Some people think that it could be a little better, and there's might be better ways to do things. But we do live in one, and so you gotta figure out how to make it work for you, because living on the street is a bad time. Like, it's so freaking scary that that's really the potential result of failing in this society. Sorry, we're not trying to talk about the woes of capitalism, but that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're up against every day. Like, there's a constant pressure, anxiety to not fail because homelessness is so scary. Addiction. let's get back to that. Why don't we? So, board game. In order to get people to buy more expansions, to buy more whatever, buy new editions, talk about it more, you make your games as addicting as possible. How do you do that in board games? It's a tricky thing to make work. It really is. Because the thing that video games like Balatro and like pretty much all video games have going for them is their incredible ease of entry. In order for me to play Balatro, I need 30 minutes and the computer that I'm sitting in front of. I need to be at home, and I need 30 minutes. In order for me to play most of the board games in my collection, I need 90 minutes and people. Like, that is such a drastically different level of effort. You need people, you need to schedule, you need to set up the game. Like, the game itself takes 90 minutes, the setup takes 20. It is so much more difficult to get a board game to the table than it is to sit down and play a video game. And so board games have to compensate for that in other ways. They have to put addiction in other places. Because it's tough to make something that's just incredibly easy to get played. Unless you're a solo gamer, and even if you are a solo gamer, I play a lot of solo games, and it's not always easy to get a solo game onto the table. Sometimes solo games are just freaking exhausting. Like, any game setting up takes a while. At least the games that I have. Cockroach Poker, a little quicker, but it's also a more, like, I don't know, weightless game. I'm not besmirching Cockroach Poker. I think it's freaking great, but it's not at the same level. I'm not as excited to play that as I am to play, like, War of the Ring or something. Easier to play it, though, and so I have played it more often. But in order to cram any amounts of addiction into board games, there is a high focus on replayability. How many board games can you think of where the map changes every time? You randomly generate a map of like hexes. That changes all over the place. Board games that have dice, there is always a random element. Things are going to be different every single time. Board games that have decks of cards, the shuffle is going to be different every single time. There are all of these ways that board games work to make things a little bit more interesting, a little bit more exciting, to make us more likely to go back in there and play them again and again and again. And again, that's not a bad thing. It's not bad that I want to play War of the Ring again because I maybe have never seen the interaction where Gandalf does this thing and then Sauron does this thing. Oh, I've never watched that unfold in that way before. It's exciting to have that kind of randomness in there. But that is not what gets us to buy more board games the most, I think. I think the thing that is the most dangerous in board gaming addiction is the market surrounding board games. It's not really the games themselves, and you may have a different opinion. Love to hear it. I think though the most common thing that I hear is that the addiction comes in at the buying stage. I think we have probably all seen a lot of folks bemoaning how Kickstarters work, how Kickstarters are run, and the strategies that are employed to get people to spend more money on Kickstarters. And wow, I just discarded the 9s. I guess I was really focused on getting that second queen. I get it. The 9 that I'm currently holding is a multiplier. But I feel like it's riskier. Down to 1 discard here. 165,000. That's pretty good. What? FOMO. That's where I'm at. FOMO. FOMO is not inherent in addiction. It's kind of a separate concept. The idea that we as people do not want to lose out on an opportunity, and so when a Kickstarter says you can get all of these freaking things for free as long as you give us all this money for this other stuff, we go, well, those things go away. Those things go away after the Kickstarter's done. So I got to get in on this. I got to get in on the ground floor. And so FOMO in and of itself is not the addictive thing. Like, FOMO is its own thing. But that constant getting of rare and exclusive things, that does give you a dopamine hit. When a big box shows up at your door and it's full of new goodies for you to play with and explore, that's where the dopamine hits. And that's why every single Kickstarter seems to just be getting bigger and bigger and bigger, more and more and more and more expensive, because people, I was going to say through no fault of their own, I guess that's kind of tough. Like, it's their own choice, but it's psychology being used against them. And like, I am not a part of this. Psychology is being used against me. Brother, why would you not use the queen? Then you'd have a full house right there with the queens. Whatever. Do what you're going to do. I guess multiple lucky cards is fine. Cool. I love catching decisions that I made in the past out of the corner of my eye and being like, why did you do that? Board game, what's going on? It's not necessarily just our faults. It's companies using psychology against us. I'm not trying to make anyone into a villain here. It's using psychology in an effective way. I mean, it does work, and they are doing it for a reason, because it consistently works. But it is something that I think you can easily get caught up in and not be conscious of. I was not conscious of it for quite a long time. The same kind of sensation kept happening, where I would get excited by the amount of stuff and I would buy it. And there is FOMO in there, but there's also that dopamine of the first time one of those Kickstarters shows up. How freaking great is that feeling? It feels so good to open up a big thing and see all the stuff that you got. The stuff that you got and a lot of other people didn't get. A lot of other people are going to want. That's going to give you some positive freaking brain chemicals. And now those Kickstarters are getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because people are seeing those same happy chemicals come out, but they're getting smaller and smaller. The benefits that are being doled out in your brain are not as effective anymore, because if you get the same size box over and over and over again, it's not going to be as exciting. So we instead have to keep buying bigger things, and companies say, okay, we will keep providing you with bigger things. It is really, if you stop and think about it, an incredible situation that these companies have gotten themselves into, whether by design or by luck. The fact that the situation is, unless we make you buy more, you're gonna be less excited. That's a good setup. That's a good recipe for good quarterly earnings calls, you know? So I think that's also what makes it so much more dangerous. Not so much more dangerous in a new way than video games. If I play Balatro over and over and over and over and over again, the damaging thing there is potentially to social life. If I get sucked into a virtual thing and spend all of my time in the virtual thing, that may hurt my relationships, that may hurt my willingness to work, all of these things that are bad because it's so easy and accessible and fun to play. But on the other hand, the danger of something like Kickstarters and them getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger is, if you need, and that's what it comes down to, is a need to buy something in order to feel good, then you are much more likely to do that thing. Drug addiction is, I am not equating board game addiction with drug addiction. Drug addiction is a whole lot worse, but it's the same kind of principle, where a big risk of drugs, in addition to the effects of the drugs themselves, is the economic risk to you. And the fact that if you need more drugs and you can't afford more drugs, you got to figure out a way to get that money. A lot of times you're not going to do it legally. I'm not saying that there's an onslaught of people committing crimes in order to buy board games. That is not what I'm saying. I promise that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that I have made poor financial decisions because I wanted a cool thing that was a board game. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to actually talk about. As I'm like, freaking, there's an epidemic of people losing their jobs because of board games. Not what I'm saying. No, not at all. But yeah, it's easy to make bad financial decisions when the only time that you feel good is when you buy a board game and when a big board game comes in, because that's actually, like, for people who have really serious addiction, that's what that dopamine slow build has done. That slow build of dopamine has made it so things that normally would give someone adequate dopamine and an adequate amount of pleasure, they don't work as well for people who have these serious addiction problems. If you are someone who is addicted to shopping, which is a real thing, if you're someone who's addicted to shopping, then you are going to need to shop more and more and more and more, and maybe something like getting an attaboy at your job, or getting a promotion at your job, or your partner telling you that they love you. Those kinds of things may not be quite so wonderful if you're spending $1,500 in a go shopping and you get all this freaking stuff. It's amazing. This is so much better than hearing that my partner loves me. That's the issue, and that's what companies can exploit, is that that sensation of I need to do this thing and have this thing get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I feel like I've been a little bit repetitive wrapping up here, and if that's true, I do apologize, but hey, I won. Look at that. We made some heads-up plays. I do take this into endless mode, and let's just skip ahead a little bit and see what this deck is capable of in the end here. Did I have the Dracula Joker? Okay, so this Dracula Joker, oh my goodness, this Dracula Joker is so freaking good. Hold on, let me pause when I hover over its ability. This Dracula Joker, what it does, it gives you a base multiplier of ×1. Freaking sucks. ×1, awful. But it gains 0.2 times multiplier per enhanced card that you played, and then because it's a vampire, it sucks the enhancement off of that card. It gets rid of it. If you've noticed, I have quite a lot of enhanced cards in my deck, so you will see this Dracula, this vampire, get extremely out of control extremely quickly. Let's skip ahead here just a little bit. This guy here, I don't think I had him before either. He gives you 1.5 times multiplier for every uncommon card that you have. I'm pretty sure this, and this are all uncommon cards. So you'll see when I play a hand just how crazy this thing gets. All right, let's see. Let's watch. We're done talking about addiction for a second. Too heavy. Okay, okay, we're just scoring a pair of cards here. Scoring a single pair of aces, 343,000 points. Pretty good. Now I think I'm gonna discard trying to find another queen. Oh, no, I'm playing the cards out. What is my strategy? I'm just trying to increase the multiplier of Dracula. Okay, now here we go. We're playing a full house. Let's see what it can do. My full house is super upgraded. Okay, so 8.8 times. Okay, a single full house gets us 10 million points. I love this game so much. How silly is that? The other thing that's crazy about where we're at in the game right now is that 10 million points is not enough to win the round. Once you're in endless mode, things get out of control super freaking fast. It gets very scary very, very quickly. When do I die? I think I die on the next ante. There we go. We got there. 12 million. Pretty good. Okay, so I'm playing the small blind. Yeah. This is definitely where I die. So let's watch the good one, the last one where I won. So this is the boss of the 11th ante. Need to get 14 million. What did I just get? I just got 10.8 million, 10 point something million on one. Yeah, 10.8 million on one. I think that's all right. I'd say that's all right. I got 2 aces too. I could do ace, 7-7. I don't need to play those 5s. What am I doing? I'm discarding. I'm trying to get a full house, so it's a little bit more fun. Yeah, there we go. This is going to be a little bit more than 10.8 because the multiplier just went up. Be about 11, I would guess. 12 million. And then I lose horribly because the next level above this ante, the small blind is 300 million. I have yet to beat ante 12 in any of my runs. That is not something that I have ever done. So let's wrap this thing up. What's my thesis? What's the point? How do I synthesize all of this into a coherent conclusion? You're asking the wrong guy. I think really the point is just to be mindful, just to be conscious of what's going on. That was and I do really think that therapy has been kind of the biggest thing for me that has helped me be conscious of these sensations. What? This is like you're a boy becoming a man. The sensations you're feeling might be strange. Sorry. I found that to be amusing. These, sure, we'll say sensations. They are sensations. These things going on in my little noggin, they are. It's the most important thing to just know that they're there and that they're happening, because that's how you can best combat them and get through it and get kind of to the other side. If you know what's going on, then you can figure out how to best address that problem. So that's what I think. That's what I would like for the world to do. To just be a little bit more. Why didn't you play the queens? Oh, because the 7's got the thing. Smart. Look at me. Yeah, because it just sucks, and it has sucked a lot for me. Buying too many things, and the hollowness that can sometimes come after you buy something and you go, did I just buy that because I'm like being kind of conditioned to do that? It can feel, what's the word? It can feel, it can make you feel smaller. It can make you feel like less of a whole being, and it doesn't make you that way, but it can feel that way, where it feels like I should have been able to avoid this, to get past this, and I wasn't. Like, I was too weak. That's not the case. It's just that you might not have the right tools, and I didn't have the right tools until therapy to get through that, to deal with that, to figure that out. Game over. So, yeah. Either go to therapy or be conscious, think about it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Was this at all interesting? Was this at all helpful? I really don't know. I found it interesting for me and wanted to share it. I am not an expert. I am not a doctor. If you'd like more information, I highly recommend you talk to doctors. You read research from scientists who study this stuff. I'm just sharing my experiences and how all this works for me and how it has worked for me, and how being conscious of it has helped me spend less and waste less and generally be a little bit happier. That's what I got. Hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a like if you did. Subscribe if you found this interesting. Usually things are a little bit funnier on this channel. This is a little bit heavier, talking about something a little bit more serious while playing Balatro. So, yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye!